All right, welcome back to the channel. So Terence Crawford's team has spoken. Brian McIntyre tells in an interview that the Shawn Porter fight's not happening and that his next fight may be in the Middle East. This on a day where they were supposed to announce a major fight taking place. Oops, I guess the Manny Pacquiao fight fell through when you thought it was popping off. However, let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So last week, there was a big announcement that Terence Crawford was going to announce this major fight next week, and that more than likely it was going to be Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. However, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao came out very quickly and said that is off the table. And that is ridiculous because, of course, it was ridiculous. But it doesn't stop people from spreading whatever nonsense Bob Arum gives them to spread. So people run around and talk about it, and it falls through. So the question is, what will be the next big announcement? Okay, so I waited all week. Who is Terence Crawford going to fight? No announcement made. The only thing that I can see as of Friday at 6 p.m., after the end of the business day Central Standard Time, is that Bomac said that they're not fighting Shawn Porter. So now we know that the big announcement in total, the things that we learned, was something we already knew. Terence Crawford is not going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao, and he's not going to fight Terence Crawford. Bob Arum is broke. So how's he going to do it? But I did find something interesting in what Bomac said. Because Bomac says the next fight was going to be, or could be, in the Middle East. Well, who would that have been? That would have been Manny Pacquiao, right? Because Tim Bradley is saying that Manny Pacquiao cannot fight legally in the United States. Doesn't make sense to me. Every time they say that, that's a Bob Arum line. He comes to the United States and he fights. So I'm just going to brush that off as more Bob Arum top rank propaganda. Regardless, the whole Terence Crawford Manny Pacquiao fight was propaganda. So, hey man, par for the course. However, we are still left with this obvious reality that Terence Crawford's next fight is going to be trash. We're not going to want to see it. People are going to say, what is this? I don't want to see it. Alexander Putin, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Josecito Lopez like Steve Kim said he thought it was going to be. But when that broke, maybe they decided that they wouldn't do Josecito Lopez. Whatever the case is, who's he going to fight? I don't see it. I don't see it. However, what I do see is that this fits in line with what people have been saying, and what I'm saying is Bob Arum's plan. Now, I was not the first person to say this. I have to point this to Best Fight the Best. Excellent channel. Definitely check out Best Fight the Best. Best Fight the Best brought up some tape of Bob Arum where Bob Arum says that he can envision a time when Terence Crawford gets the franchise belt after Errol Spence moves up. Terence Crawford himself also says that he is past the Errol Spence Jr. fight. So we now know that Terence Crawford will not be fighting Manny Pacquiao, will not be fighting Shawn Porter, and will not be fighting Errol Spence Jr. And of course, he's not going to be fighting Yordenis Ugas because Errol Spence Jr. is supposed to be fighting Yordenis Ugas. And the plan, according to Bob Arum, or what he envisions, you see it, you believe it, you receive it, because you work for it and do whatever you can to make it happen, would be Errol Spence gets all three belts. He tries to make the Terence Crawford fight, but Terence Crawford says he's past it. Errol Spence then says, I've beaten everybody in the division. Let me move up to 154. When he moves up to 154, then all the belts will be vacant. This is something we see happen with Anthony Joshua. We've seen with other people that held three belts. We saw it happen at 140 pounds when Terence Crawford vacated at 140. What happens? There's a bunch of tournament a bunch of people get their hands on belts that are not great fighters, like Sergey Lipinets, like Julius Ndungo, like Felix Diaz, like Victor Postol, right? Not the best fighters in the world, but they're the best fighters that were there. Why? Because there's no more Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia leaves the weight division. The weight division's wide open, right? Or, excuse me, pause. Go back one. People like Sergey Lipinets get it, and the other people that got those belts after Terence Crawford vacated them, right? We still now, who got messed over in that scenario? Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis was supposed to get a fight at the WBC belt. He would have been in the situation to unify the WBC and the WBO. You know, the belt, the WBO belt, which is just flat out called whatever Bob orders. So that's what Bob Arum is trying to do, or his plan is for Terence Crawford, and none of these fights are going to pan out because all of the fighters that we just said he's not going to fight are all fighters that are not with Top Rank. What a surprise, a Top Rank fighter not going to the other side of the street. And people blamed Errol Spence Jr. for saying it. However, when Bob Arum lays out a plan that is exactly that, Terence Crawford staying on his side of the street, because who do you think is going to get these shots when Errol Spence Jr. vacates? They'll be top-ranked fighters because it will be guys moving up from 140. It will be the guy who's already the WBA champion at 140. He'll be able to move up and fight for the WBA title, be highly ranked, be right there, and fight some other guy that the WBA orders for him to fight, and it's not going to be some great fighter. It's going to be a fighter significantly easier to beat than Errol Spence Jr., right? And then whoever that fighter is, especially if he's a top-ranked fighter, will fight Terence Crawford or fight Jose Ramirez or fight Josh Taylor or whichever one that Bob Arum arranges. Because Bob Arum thinks it's a team sport, and he wants all of the welterweight division to himself, just like he wants all of 135 to himself, and he wants all 140 to himself. He wants all those belts because he wants all those fights so that he can gamble on all those fights. Not complicated. And Terence Crawford is a top-ranked fighter through and through. And Bomac makes his living off top-ranked fights. He trains other top-ranked fighters. So they're looking, from what I can see, they're looking at the long money on it, not looking for the short money on it. And Terence Crawford is being very open with it. I don't care what any of my fans say. They're going to watch whatever fights I want, whatever fights I have. And I'm going to get paid either way. And I can find a way to be undisputed. I was undisputed at 140. Bob made that happen. Bob can make it happen in 147 too. And who cares if I fight Errol Spence Jr.? I might lose that fight. If I lose that fight, I can't scheme and get the same thing at 154 by moving other people around and doing all that nonsense when I have to move to 154 if I want to be a four-weight class division guy. Because that's what Bob Arum does. Point blank, period. However, in this point in time in history, I think Terence Crawford is making a mistake because Bob Arum is not in a particularly strong place. And even though he really wants to eliminate mandatories, right? We can see when he's the franchise champion. What does that mean? Franchise champion means he doesn't have to take any mandatories, only voluntaries. And if you get only mandatories and not voluntaries, then people like Triller can't beat you in a purse bid and you lose the belt. Right? Can't do it. Win with the franchise belt that has no mandatories, even though that is against the Ali Act, which is why I'm telling you, dude, Bob Arum is just he's just terrible for boxing. He flouts the law like there's no problem. He intimidates and blackballs fighters. The guy needs to go. And Terence Crawford trusts him and works with him. So, hey, man, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, dude. Kick rocks, man. It is what it is, dude. If you're not going to fight these PBC fighters and you're going to try to go around them and skip out on it so you can get the belts and the trinkets and claim you're the greatest, no, man. People are going to call that out and say it is what it is. And that looks like what you're trying to do. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.